It's 3:15, and that means it's time for
The Real Deal with Bill McNeil.
That's right. Welcome once again to The Real Deal with Bill McNeil. I'm your host, Bill McNeil, and you're probably wondering exactly what is the real deal today.
Hey, good question.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. There was some Marvel news out there I'm sure most of you expected me to cover yesterday, but Marvel Comics themselves said, hey, we're going to have more information tomorrow. So I decided to hold off to talk about this new Iron Fist information. And we'll also get into the new Savage Spider-Man as well as the new Ghost Rider series as well. Now, we knew something was going to be happening. They had the teaser images out yesterday. Basically, we saw Danny Rand, the Iron Fist, ditching his costume in a dark alley. And it said Iron Fist no more. Very reminiscent of Amazing Spider-Man number 50, where essentially Peter Parker did the exact same thing. It was an homage. And at this point in time, are Marvel Comics and DC really doing homages, or are they just ripping stuff off? They're telling the same exact stories over and over. They're using the same exact, iconography. It feels like it's less homage and more ripping off at this point, just for kind of nostalgia bait. That, my friends, is a conversation for another day. But we did see that, and we also saw some teaser promo that said, who is the new Iron Fist? Obviously indicating that it's not going to be Danny Rand. The Dragon Awakens in 2022. My first two assumptions were it's going to be Jane Foster or it's going to be Carol Danvers, right? They're the ones. Those are the two characters that are most likely to steal mantles at this point in time, or steal powers from other heroes within the Marvel Universe. It turns out that is not correct. We've got our first look at the new character, which is going to be written by Alyssa Wong, with art from Michael, I'm going to say YG. There's a chance you have to pronounce that. I'm going to say Michael YG, that's introducing a totally new hero whose secret identity remains hidden behind the Iron Fist costume, which has been redesigned by Jim Cheung for the new character. It sounds like this will not be an established character within the Marvel Universe, ascending to the mantle, but will be a brand new character. Now, there are some guarantees on this one. We know that in the past, specifically with the Netflix series, that people were upset that you could use racially stereotyped ideas on a white character when it's supposed to be Asian. If you're going to stereotype somebody with kung fu and dragons, it's got to be an Asian character. It cannot be a white character. Of course, you hit the outcries of the great white savior trope. I guess it's been in comic books. So this character is almost guaranteed to be Asian, so the character will be stereotyped correctly, according to Marvel Comics. And I don't know, whoever's pushing these kinds of changes. As far as the character goes, this will be a 5-issue limited series. I'm about tired of the mantle passing. Like, there are some tropes, and I'm going to make a video about this pretty soon, like the 3 or 4 tropes that I'm absolutely done with. And the ascending to the mantle trope is absolutely, it's so played out at this point, it's not even funny. It's because it's so transparent in the reason that they're doing it. Well, they want to create a new character that's more racially diverse than Danny Rand, that, kind of leans into the Iron Fist mythology or lore, but they don't want to create a new character that has a new hero mantle or a new costume or something like that, because that would take work, right? You not only have to do the character, you got to introduce the character, you got to generate interest. You've got to portray the character with other heroes and show that they can kind of stand on their own without annoying the hell out of people before you kind of launch them out on their own and see if they can stand on their own as a new property. So what you do is you take the easy way out and you say, you know what, Danny Rand doesn't want to be the Iron Fist anymore. He shouldn't be the Iron Fist anyway. He's not Asian. And you create a new character and you put the hero costume on him, and then you go, oh, this is Iron Fist now. And then, of course, all the Iron Fist fans are like, this ain't fucking Danny Rand. What are you talking about? That's not Iron Fist. This is a poser. This is an imposter character. And then a few people come in on from the outside because maybe they hear that there's going to be a new Iron Fist that's more racially diverse and fits in with the stereotypes that are approved for the Iron Fist character. They go, look, I supported the new Iron Fist. Look, he's Asian now. I got the comic book. They throw it out on social media. They get some claps and everybody talks about how wonderful it is. And then they never return to the series. And the thing just dies, right? And they're like, whoa, why did this new Iron Fist character die? The fucking fans are racist. Fucking assholes. What are they doing? This stupid racist jerk-offs. Why aren't you supporting the character? And they're like, well, because I actually like Iron Fist, Danny Rand. This isn't Iron Fist. You actually put an imposter character in there, which certainly wasn't appealing to me. So I decided to move on. And then, of course, they will return Danny Rand, and then they'll know that all their fans are just bigots and terrible people. And that's the only reason that this thing could fail, which has failed, time and time again, as far as these mantle passings that really are, they're just race, gender, sexuality swaps for characters, which it's so transparent at this point that it's become beyond passe. It's boring would be an understatement for this kind of thing. Like, oh, can I roll my eyes any harder? I don't think so. If I do, I'm going to pass out. My eyes don't actually roll that far in the back of my head. And it will not be the fact that they decided to change out the mantle of a character that's been within the Marvel Universe for decades now to replace them with a more stereotypically accepted character to be in that role. And then you put a writer like Alyssa Wong on the series, which she's never actually sold a comic book. That's the problem, right? Has anyone actually said, you know what? I wonder what Alyssa Wong is writing these days? Because I want to buy that damn thing. The last comic book I read for her was so damn good. I just got to get on that thing. Now, I will admit, I did recently review here on the channel Batman Urban Legends, and there's a short Kate Kane story in there, Batwoman by Alyssa Wong, and it was the best story in the comic book. In fact, that week, I believe, of Batman was so shitty, that was the best Batman story that was written. It was okay. It wasn't great. It was readable. And, that's the highest compliment that I can give Alyssa Wong to this day. And that was under DC Comics. This is over at Marvel. So you're replacing out the character. You put out this lame headline. They'll never mention it again. You put a writer on there that's never put any asses in seats. And then they're going to be like, well, the reason the character failed is because of the fans. Some of you may be saying, well, why would Danny Rand give up the mantle of Iron Fist? He loves being Iron Fist. And I do want to apologize. I might have said Iron Man a time or two before this because, there's too many Iron characters within the Marvel Universe. Why would Danny Rand not be the Iron Fist? All right, so you got to go back and you got to read Larry Hama's Iron Fist. Was it the Heart of the Dragon miniseries that recently ended? And in that, we've got Iron Fist, Danny Rand. They're going up against this enormous dragon and all this stuff's happening. And it's clear that Danny Rand is not a good enough Iron Fist to overcome the odds and win the day. Not only is it clear to me, the reader, but it's also clear to Danny Rand, the character. And Okoye from Black Panther lore somehow is in there also fighting this dragon. And he gives up the Iron Fist power and he puts it into Okoye, who, basically, I don't know, she kicked the dragon in the balls, probably. Let's just say she dispatches the dragon in about a page and a half. This probably wasn't that long, but like 3 panels. Fuck that dragon up, put it to sleep. And Danny Rand was like, you know what? That wasn't a really good Iron Fist anyway. And it's not really my thing. I'm just going to go live my life. I want you to keep the power of Okoye. And Okoye's like, the fuck do I want this lame-ass stereotypical Asian power for? I'm in the Black Panther series. I don't want that stuff. Let's put it inside this dragon egg. And then apparently it's going to be discovered. Although it is hinted at within the promotional pieces that this Iron Fist power might not be coming from the traditional source of that dragon egg, that it might come from something more sinister, and would perhaps you would need the return of Danny Rand to maybe put the new Iron Fist down because they are not properly motivated. Maybe they're not on the good side of the spectrum. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe that'll happen, but it could. So we ended up having Okoye depositing the Iron Fist power in the egg of Pei's dragon Gork, which has been reborn as Gork the Undying. And hey, that's where that series left off. We knew this was going to happen. Larry Hama basically, metaphorically, kicked Danny Rand in the balls and said, get out of here, son. You do not read the right stereotypical identities that should be associated with this character. We're going to push you to the side, even though it's been your mantle for decades now, and make way for a true Iron Fist, which is likely to be one of the most stereotypically racist caricatures of the character, of an Asian character you can find in Marvel Comics outside of Shang-Chi. How is it less racist to have stereotypes associated with a character that is not stereotypically that character, and remove them from them and then go put it on the character that it's more stereotypically associated with? Is that racism, or is it a cultural appropriation? I don't know. You have to talk to some of these people, because it makes no sense to me. So that's the news, people. Danny Rand is out, because that white boy, he should not be knowing the kung fu, and he certainly should not be going around playing dragons or playing around with dragons and fighting them and stuff like that. It should be a damn Asian, according to Marvel Comics, because white boys don't do that. And we've obviously we got Alyssa Wong in to do it, because that's all that Alyssa Wong is allowed to write for Marvel Comics. She goes over to DC, she can write fucking Kane Batwoman. She's over at Marvel. I'm sorry, you are relegated to Asian characters, usually Asian female characters, but it appears from the promo art that this is an Asian male character. So perhaps they're opening up the spectrum of what Alyssa Wong's allowed to work on. So that's the Iron Fist news. Let's move on to Savage Spider-Man. Now, I know a lot of people were very, very interested in Nonstop Spider-Man, where we saw Joe Kelly and Chris Bachalo get on the series. It was delayed many, many times. It finally came out. It was cut short. It was ended abruptly. I've heard the rumors that it was because Bachalo could not keep up the schedule. I do not know that for sure. I've not confirmed it, because I did not care enough, because I wasn't reading the comic book. Doc probably cares. He loves that stuff. But we did see before the end of what turned out to be the Nonstop Spider-Man miniseries that they forgot to tell you it was a 5-parter rather than an ongoing. They tell you it's an ongoing, then they gave you the old switcheroo. It's definitely a modern Marvel tactic that they do quite a lot. We'll put that one in the old Marvel playbook. But he had turned into like a literal Spider-Man. He had like a bunch of eyes and extra arms and stuff, which we've certainly seen. I remember seeing in the cartoons. It certainly was in the comic books at one point, but he looks a little bit more monstrous this time. And we are getting the return of Joe Kelly, but we will not be seeing Chris Bachalo. Like I mentioned, I've heard that he could not keep up with the schedule. We are getting Gerardo Sandoval with covers by Nick Bradshaw. Another 5-issue miniseries. At least they are announcing it as a miniseries this time. And we will see the mutated Spider-Man as he gains powers beyond his control. Is this in continuity? Who knows? Continuity, schmontinuity. That's what Marvel and DC Comics say these days. Obviously, you do have the big Spider-Man story going with the Beyond board, and likely a new Spider-Man writer coming up as we move towards the 60th anniversary of Amazing Fantasy 15 in 2022. This is what they had to say. By I think this is that Nick's what's his name? I don't remember. The Spider-Man group editor guy. I can't remember his name. He's not important enough. This is what he had to say. Forget everything you know about Spider-Man. All rules and regulations are out the door, and Peter Parker may never be the same. Guarantee you he will. There's no way that they're going to leave Peter Parker as this deformed, sick monstrous beast that has all these arms and legs and stuff, because Peter Parker is worth a lot of money as a human. So I think that's a ruse. I think they're selling us, and they ain't selling it well. They got to stop it with this stuff. They got to stop overselling and under-delivering. They need to start underselling and over-delivering, because they have forget everything you know about Spider-Man. All the rules and regulations are out the door. Spider-Man's never going to be the same. Yes, he is. You're clear. This is a mini-series. You're going to put him right back in the box the way you found him, or at least the way you found him before Nonstop Spider-Man. So that's my little rant on that one. As you can see, I'm not taking most of these Marvel Comics announcements very seriously. DC Comics has got me down, and it's just kind of rolling over to Marvel. They haven't been nearly as offensive as DC lately, in my opinion. But if you're excited about that, if you don't like the Spider-Man Beyond stuff, you have options. You can go read Symbiote Spider-Man. You can read Ben Reilly Spider-Man. You can read Miles Morales Spider-Man. You can read Savage Spider-Man. There's a couple other ones in there too. I can't remember all the Spider-Man comics, but there's a lot of places. If you ain't getting it with the Beyond board, you can get it somewhere else. Let's get to the big announcement, the one that I think is probably the most exciting. We've got a Ghost Rider return with a horror-fueled title in 2022 from the writer of Wolverine, Ben Percy. I personally like Ben Percy. I was a fan of his when he was working at DC Comics, specifically the stuff that he was doing with Nightwing before he moved over to X-Force, then to Wolverine. I also like the Wolverine podcast that he's done. If you have not gone to your Spotify or Google podcast and checked out those 2 Wolverine stories, one of them's the long Wolverine, the long something. I don't remember the name of it. I listened to that thing like a year ago. Those are original stories by Ben Percy, and I think those were really good too. They got a really good voice actor. It was the dude that was the lead dwarf in the Hobbit movies. Richard Armitage. There you go. I remembered something. So if you like that kind of stuff, I say check out that podcast. But Ben Percy is going to be writing Ghost Rider. I think it kind of fits in his wheelhouse. And we'll be getting art from Corey Smith. And this will be focusing on Johnny Blaze as the Ghost Rider. And he set up a new civilian identity. And there's going to be some horrific twist as usual. And in the new title, Johnny is now a mechanic living in a small town with a wife and kids and a dark secret hiding inside him, the spirit of vengeance. When did he have time to have a new wife and kids? Like, I was literally just reading a Ghost Rider comic from, oh my goodness, that dude that Ed Brisson. That was from Ed Brisson that had Johnny Blaze in it. And he was the ruler of hell, and he gave it back to Mephisto as he returned to the Ghost Rider mantle, and Danny Ketch kind of retired or whatever. When did he have time to have kids? I don't know if you know this. It takes 9 months to gestate a baby. You got to have the baby. They have to grow up. My goodness. We're in the Marvel sliding timeline here. You know, he just left hell like 3 days ago. There's no time for him to have kids. Perhaps he is these kids, this wife and kids are demons or something that he's paying a little bit. Like, here's a $50 this week if you act like you're my wife and kids, so nobody suspects that I'm actually the Ghost Rider. Could happen. Yeah. So this is what Ben Percy said. I'm a horror head. I grew up reading Stephen King, watching John Carpenter, and listening to Black Sabbath. And when it comes to comics, I always reached for the dark and weird, which means I read a hell of a lot of Ghost Rider. Makes sense. I believe that. Although if you read other interviews, this motherfucker was reading Wolverine his entire life, and that's why he grew out his mutton chops. Well, I guess perhaps he had time for more than one character. He continued, that flaming skull, that spiked leather jacket, that monstrous bike coughing out clouds of sulfurous exhaust. To this day, the sight of the character blazing along a midnight highway makes my heart rev like a 4-stroke engine. The dude's got puns. The man knows his bike culture. So that's probably a good start. He knows more about bikes than most people, apparently, at Marvel Comics. And he also continued, Ghost Rider is arguably the best design, but inarguably the most heavy metal character in all of comics. I think that is heavily debatable. It would be badass to write the series at any point in my life, but launching on the 50th anniversary feels especially unholy. Corey Smith is killing it on art, and we're going to honor the past while burning rubber into a terrifying future packed with mystery, action, and shadow-soaked emotion. Well, I do come for the emotion on a Ghost Rider series. Prepare yourself for the ultimate in road horror. I'm gonna read it. You know, hey, we'll see how the art looks. I really thought that Aaron Kuder was really good on the last series. Hopefully, Corey Smith will be able to replicate that, or at least meet that standard that was in there. I think Ben Percy is actually a really good writer. I was busting on his nuggets there, but I think he goes into these things and puts it all on the line. I don't think he really ever half-asses it, where I do see that with a lot of other creators, both at Marvel and DC. I like Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider is like a really cool character. There's a lot of things that you can do with the character. There are too many Ghost Riders, though. You got Robbie Reyes on the Avengers. Apparently, you've got Johnny Blaze as the Ghost Rider. You got Danny Ketch running a bar. Let's cut it out with the Ghost Riders, right? We got enough Ghost Riders. I think we've got one on a woolly mammoth. And I think there's also another Ghost Riders. It's also the Sorcerer Supreme that was a Native American. Like, let's dial it back on all the Ghost Riders and see if we can actually make a Ghost Rider series that sells some fucking units and bring some asses into the comic shop and get this thing right, because they've definitely it's not a Marvel thing. This is a comic book thing. They spread these things too thin. I hope this is very good. I will definitely be along for the ride. I'm a fan of the character. I'm a fan of the writer. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is Ghost Rider the most heavy metal character in all of comics? He's definitely up there. It'd be hard to, I think you could argue it, but I think Ghost Rider has a place in the top 3, maybe, top 5 minimum, probably like the top 3 and possibly the top spot. So he's definitely got a point there. So that's it for your Marvel Comics news of the day. We finally got the first looks at the new Iron Fist. Undoubtedly a more stereotypical character that aligns with the powers and lore and mystery of the Iron Fist. As you can't do things like that in modern comic books. You got to take mantles away and give them to new characters. And when they fail, it's going to be on you and I because we're bigots, and it's not because Marvel hasn't had a new idea in 20 years. We've got Savage Spider-Man coming out. At least they admitted it was a miniseries this time. No Chris Bachalo, but we do have Gerardo Sandoval in on art. And the new Ghost Rider series to honor the 50th anniversary of the character. Ben Percy, I'm a fan of. We shall see what happens there. I'm a customer. We'll see if he can make it work. And I have got a feeling that this Ghost Rider series is going to be worth reading. It's not going to be Moon Knight, though, because that's the best thing Marvel's got right now.